they know next time same thing's going to happen. There's got to be a consequence for every action. Our trouble today is we seem to think that because someone can sing or someone's a good athlete, we need to give them a free pass. That's where you have problems. That's where you have breakdown. You can't do those things.
Welcome to the Desoto podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Desoto, just a matter of doing it. Today we are joined by the former head coach at Desoto High School, Chris Dyer. Coach Dyer spent 38 years teaching and coaching. He had 788 wins in his 28 years as a head coach at South Oak Cliff and Desoto High School. Chris Dyer led his teams to 5 state championships, 1 as an assistant and 4 as a head coach. He was the Metroplex Coach of the Year 4 times and District Coach of the Year 15 times. 3 times, Coach Dyer had the honor of coaching at the Jordan Classic. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Desoto Podcast. What's up, Coach?
Hey, just another day in paradise.
How is retirement for you? You enjoying it?
Oh, immensely. I should have done it 20 years ago.
I rarely get to talk to a coach that is retired that is just disliking it. And a lot of them say the same thing.
It's been great. I'm still involved a little bit. I volunteer for Coaches Outreach, which is a Bible study. And so I've been to Kimball, Skyline, Sauk, Carter, DeSoto. People don't even realize this. I was in Dallas for 16 years, so I still have a lot of ties there. Just trying to, it's a Bible study I was part of for 22 years in DeSoto, and they're located. Their headquarters is in Addison.
Oh wow!
And it's phenomenal. We have playbooks, and I do a Zoom Bible study every Wednesday morning at 6, and all the coaches are from Kansas City, Oklahoma. I'm the only one from Texas, so they give me a hard time about football and barbecue.
Wow.
Hey, Kansas City, where'd you guys get your quarterback from? And they get real quiet. So,
we got that over them. That's for sure. Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that you did that. I didn't know that was a big part of something that you did while you're at DeSoto. That's incredible.
It surprises a lot of people, and not for the good reason.
That's not what I meant.
Well, I'm my persona or my image was not always the best. People always saw me in a game situation, and usually I was yelling at kids or yelling at refs or yelling at my coaches or someone. But once the game was over, I wanted to have a good time, enjoy people. I think that's why Tommy and I got along so well, because we're both, he grew up in Oak Cliff. I lived in Oak Cliff when I was at Kimball and South Oak Cliff for a little bit. And, we have some of the same background, knew some of the same people. He went to Carter with a lot of guys that I coached with and used to play ball with. And, and that's why, and then being from the Midwest, that's why Coach Drew and I kind of hit it off and got along so well, because we talk about, growing up in the winters, and, he was in Indiana and I was in Ohio. Just I'm glad to be in Texas. That's all I can tell you.
That's right. Well, to your point, just because we're believers doesn't mean that we're not allowed to be competitive and that we're not allowed to be fierce and have moments. And, and the thing is too, just because you do put your faith in Christ doesn't mean that you're perfect. And we still have a sin nature, and we're still going to make mistakes. But I do see a lot of similarities between you and Coach Thomas. Just, obviously spending a little bit more time around him as he's one of my mentors. But he was fiery and emotional. But man, quickly after that game was over, you knew how much that he cared about you and loved you. And it's been really cool to learn more about his relationship with the Lord over the years. Now that he's been out and I'm in coaching, we get to talk more about those things. So I see a lot of similarities between you two.
Well, you were blessed. Like I said, two of my favorite people. When right before I retired, I had a heart issue. I had to get a surgery on my heart, and Coach Drew happened to call me because we used to talk quite a bit. Of course, when he had TJ, he called me a lot more often. Uh, but he prayed with me over the phone. He and um, uh, Ryan Glenny over at DBU, they both. And I always appreciate coaches that pray, that don't try to hide that they're Christians. Um, but Coach Drew said, well, "Coach, can I pray with you over the phone?" I said, "I would appreciate it." So, and everything came out well, so I'm happy. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, just so you know, man, this is an absolute honor for me. It's fun getting to talk to coaches in all stages of their careers. And 38 years, I know that you probably are like Coach Thomas, don't really care about the wins, but almost 800 wins and 4 state championships. And most importantly, though, just the amount of lives that you've been able to touch. And so to get to have this time with you, absolute honor, Coach.
Well, it's my pleasure and my honor because anytime I can talk about coaching and kids and Christ, I think that's the trifecta for me. I just it's it, it's some of the things that I think we need to get back to. We it's crazy out there now. I talk to all my assistants. A lot of my assistants are head coaches, and Coach Martinez is down at Atascocita, and I talk to him every day, and he always tells me, "Man, it's a good thing you got out when you did." So, but I'm blessed. I really am. I mean, I came down here on a vacation, never went home. So people ask me all the time. In fact, I met a guy last week on a cruise, and we're sitting there talking. He lives down in Aledo, I think, and he grew up in Mesquite. And he said, "Well, how'd you get down here?" I said, "God." I mean, I look back now, I didn't realize at the time, but I was born and raised Akron, Ohio, and came down here to visit. And first school I got sent to interview was at Kimball, and Paul Graham just got moved up. He just took the job at SMU with Coach Bliss, and they moved Coach Tubbs up from JV to varsity. But I got hired to be a football coach.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I got hired. Well, everyone in Dallas gets hired.
That's right.
I threw bat practice, baseball, girls soccer, tiddlywinks if they would have had it. I was everyone's JV coach for 8 years and loved it. And but even when I was at South Oak Cliff as a head coach, I did varsity football.
Wow.
And I taught 5 classes with 4 preps.
That's humbling right there. I mean, anytime any of us have moments of complaining about any extra duties or anything else we have to do our schools, I hope we always remember what you just said and about the decade or so that you, or even more, that you spent doing other things besides basketball. Thank you for that reminder already.
Well, I got hired as, Coach Hitchcock. I went in and talked to him, and he had been in the Navy and World War II, and he was kind of a strict guy, and I learned a lot from him. I tell everyone it was like working for Woody Hayes, but he talked to me for about an hour. He said, "Well, if you want the job, fellas, go talk to Dr. Thornton." And then he said, "By the way, you can coach basketball too, can't you?" And I had been coaching basketball up in Ohio. I said, "Oh yeah, I can coach basketball." "Good, you're JV coach." So I mean, I was Jimmy and I were together 8 years and had a great relationship, great friendship. And I was just thrown into that situation. So I mean, who else could have done that but God?
Yeah. I feel the same way. I'm still a Yankee in my heart. I mean, I grew up in Pennsylvania till I was 14, and kind of a God thing, was able to a coach that I had in that little town moved down to the Colony, Texas. And during my 8th grade summer, I came down to see him and go to a camp a premier basketball camp that he was working, that was actually run by Tommy Thomas. And I mean, I was like a 5'3" kid with a flat top and size 13 shoe. And coach, so it wasn't recruiting. He had no clue that I would turn out to be any type of player. But I had big goals and big dreams, and I told Coach T what they were, and he said, "Matt, those can happen for you down here." And he said, "There's no doubt." I went back home, told my parents that I need to move to Texas to play college basketball, and they sent me down 2 weeks later to start my freshman year at the Colony. So yeah, I'm a complete believer that this is exactly where God wanted my family and I, and to play for Coach T and his involvement in my life. So yeah, that's crazy how those things work out.
Well, I did premier camps for 17 years, and a lot of them were with Tommy.
Yep.
And I had Chad, Harold, all that whole group.
The whole Colony crew right there.
Yeah, they were a trip. They were great
Yep.
kids. We had a great time. And then, I'd have open gym at SOC in the summer, and they'd come down. At that time, it was the old SOC. It was on the second floor, not air conditioned,
Oof.
all the windows facing west. And we'd have some hellacious games. I mean, you'd sweat just walking in the gym. And Lamont too. I enjoyed Lamont quite a bit. But no, those 17 years doing the premier camp they were something else.
Yeah. First question. I love getting to learn about the habits of coaches, daily habits of coaches and successful people. So what are some of the things that you do daily that kind of set you up for success, and even when you were coaching?
Well, coaching, I mean, it started in football. We'd sit down and do a practice, and you had to script it out. You had to have a copy with you, because if the head coach came up to you during practice and what's next, and you didn't know, uh, I mean, you got jumped on, you got cussed out.
Yeah.
And I never went on the floor without a daily practice schedule. Never try to wing it. I hate when I show up for a camp. They say, "Coach, won't you take over? Won't you do that? Give me a heads up. I don't mind. Just kind of let me know what's going on." So whenever I do camps or anything or a practice, I kind of have some stuff in the back of my mind. I might need to pull this stuff out, because just not being organized and not having a schedule. You got to have it. Even being retired, I have a list of things that I want to try to accomplish each and every day, and if I can get half of them done, that's pretty good.
That's a win. That's a common thread from successful coaches or leaders, is that they go to sleep with the next day planned out. What were some of the other habits, maybe 38 years of coaching, that you brought every day, especially in season, that just helped you kind of stay focused, stay organized?
You got to read the daily word every day. When I was younger, when I was in Dallas, especially, even in DeSoto, sometimes you forget that you are a husband, a father, or and sometimes you're so overcome with, hey, we got to have success, we got to win. There was a lot of years I'd come home from a practice, I'd tell my wife, hey, don't buy anything new, because we may be moving. And she would just kind of laugh about it and everything. Uh, it's amazing things how things work out a lot of times. You just got to stay with your guns. You got to stay with your principles. I didn't want the kids to ever lie. I didn't want of course that doesn't always work,
But at
I
least the
always want.
standard is there that we're not going to do that. And I think if you set that standard, then you have a better chance of it happening less.
You're right. You're right. And I wanted assistant coaches that, number one, the most important thing about assistant coaches, like I said, I coach football, so you can teach anybody anything. If I can coach football, I can take someone that's never even seen a basketball and get them. The big is you have coaches that are loyal. You don't want your stuff out in the barbershop. You don't want your stuff out, in the weekly reader. Uh, you got to have coaches that support you and have your back, and have the same agenda you do. And I was very, very fortunate. The coaches I had that They believed in discipline. They believed in the kids being on time. Uh, one, I used to tell my kids, one of my kids a few years ago came up to me and said, Coach, I'm doing that linguini time. I said, what are you talking about, Clay? He said, what you told me about. I said, Clay, that's called Lombardi time. You know, he said, Coach, I'm 10 minutes early for everything. I said, that's good. That's good. But
We'll go with linguini then. Okay. That's
so,
good.
you just, I always tell the kid, if you're not going to be on time, but something's happening, if you're having a hard time getting to practice, call me. Let me know. I don't want you walking in 10 minutes after we get started, because that's a pet peeve of mine, or a coach. If I had a coach that walked in, I told all my coaches to be there an hour before practice. And then afterwards, I'd tell them, hey, you guys go home, I'll stay.
Oh.
So you just you got to model behavior. And, if you don't do it, how do you expect them to do it? I always used to sweep the floor myself. I didn't want anyone else doing it. And one year when I was at South Oak Cliff, Roy Williams came down from Kansas. And I'm at sock and I'm sweeping the floor before practice. He said, hey, Coach, you got another broom? I said, yeah. He said, well, here, I'll help you. And his story was he started out as a ninth grade football coach. And he said first day of practice, he had a group of kids like 45 minutes by himself, and he didn't know what to do. So they did the figure eight bear crawls, for 45 minutes. He said, I didn't know what else to do. It was just a type of. So that kind of shows you, he said, have a group of assistants that have gone from college to college, and they don't understand. They think the baskets are always put down, the floor is always swept, and they don't understand somebody has to do that. And being a high school coach, I don't have a work crew. My work crew is me. So
that's a good point. And I love what you said about having assistants that are loyal. I wonder how many times when you have positions that are open and you're looking through applications, how many times we focus mainly on the basketball piece. Where have they played? What do they know? We focus on that, but then you're right on the money. I mean, it doesn't really matter how great of a coach they are if you don't feel like that they have your back as a head coach. It's not going to work out. It's going to be tough.
Well, if you're rowing one way and they're on the other side of the boat rowing the other,
yep,
it's hard to get things done.
So you better ask the right questions. I mean, you better ask those questions and really try to get a good feel. Don't be blinded by maybe the experience or where they played or at what level, and make sure that it is the right fit for you and your school and your program.
Well, I mean, look at I'm not putting myself in this category, but Coach Drew and Tommy and myself, we're not going to make anybody's all NBA team or anybody's all league team. We could have a hard time making the all church league team. So when you get guys that are blue collar that have worked, it's a little bit different, I guess, and that's what I look for. You're going to laugh about this. I'd always hire coaches to work the premier camps. And I would look for little things like during lunchtime, did they go over and take out take the trash bags out of the barrel and tie them up and place them out front like at Hockaday or something like that. It was the little things. Yeah. Did they get early? Did they try to get out the door, early? Just little things.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Bology. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Bology app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Bology skills assessment. Please visit bology.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. With all the players that you've had at your programs, you've probably had a lot of coaches go through what you just talked about Roy Williams coming through the gym and helping you sweep. but being around all of those leaders, you probably got to pick up on some of the characteristics that make them special. What's one quality that you see in great leaders?
Well, great leaders are focused. I mean, I've been real fortunate. We had two of our kids played for Coach K at Duke, and I got to be around him quite a bit. In fact, we even got to practice on Duke's floor when we played in the OT Holiday Classic. But a little side story: we play at the school in Raleigh. It's a public school, but it's kind of like a private institution. It was called and I can't remember, Peabody School or something like that. But that's where they had the tournament. And out front in the foyer was a shrine, a huge shrine to Pete Maravich, who played there in high school. So I
Oh,
took my kids out there. I took my kids out there. I said, guys, this is Pete Maravich. And one of the kids looked at me and said, who's that, coach?
no, they they have to know who Pete is. Oh,
They were more impressed. There was a Chick-fil-A that they bought for. It was two-story. It was a two-story Chick-fil-A. And you'd order and your stuff would come up on a dumbwaiter. They were more impressed with that.
man, Pistol Pete was one of my favorite players of all time, but a huge influence on me with his homework basketball videos. I mean, that's really where I learned kind of a love of skill work was from him.
No better. No one better. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, let's face it. If he was playing with a 3-point line,
Averaged over 50 points a game if that was the case. Yeah. Yeah. Um, who were some of those? So you mentioned focus. Who were some of those leaders or coaches that you can think of that, man, kind of really blew you away in that area?
um, Pat Summit, um, Rick Pitino, growing up, of course, outside of Orville in Akron, and Bob Knight, of course. Um, you know, you saw a lot of guys that were really focused and had you see, it seemed like they had a handle on everything.
Hmm.
So but it's just it's all a little bit different now with the media and the stuff that you all have to go through. I don't know the NIL stuff. Ooh, I don't want to touch it.
Me neither. Yeah, and a lot of those things that there are still some places where you don't have to deal with some of the headaches that at bigger schools. Like at Grapevine Faith Christian School, it's a small 5A private school where it's a little simpler here, and so there is that piece that comes from just really not having to mess with some of those things like that for sure. Um, I would imagine that those names that you mentioned, that majority of people, I mean, for good reasons now, but in their lifetime, they've never had the opportunity to be around them. But I would imagine the focus that they were able to have comes from the organization that you talked about with Daily Habits. Like, I think those two things go hand in hand, right?
Oh yes, oh yes. I mean you've got to have order in your life if you want order on the court, and it means getting up early and um, you know mapping out the day, mapping out what all needs to be done, and then contacting those people, contacting those coaches and or the kids, and let them know, hey, this is how this is what I need everyone to be, and this is where I need you to do, and everything.
Did you ever know Coach Fitch over at Birdville High School? He was there for a long time, but there's a chance you guys never crossed paths.
I did not. We did not ever. We when I was at Kimball, we were in the Holton tournament every year, and then when I got to South Oak Cliff, we never really went over there too much.
Well, the reason I bring him up is he had been at Birdville for 20 some years, and he just recently retired. And we're talking about some of these questions, and favorite culture building activity came up, and he just made a comment about that word culture. He's like, you just hear it all the time now, but he said, 20, 30 years ago, we never used but we all had it. Like, there's standards, the pillars, the ways that you show up. So what were some of the things that you did to help build that culture in the programs that you had?
I always took the kids to church with me. Of course, the bottom line was we had to feed them afterwards.
That's the trade-off.
You know, my wife is Italian and she's a cook, great cook. And I can remember us having like 14 kids at our house. And one of them was Evan Washington, who went on to be the left tackle at LSU. And she made like 12 pounds of spaghetti and like two different desserts, salad, And I can remember sitting there and all 14 kids. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. They were just eating. That's all they were doing. And when they got done, everything was gone, and I do mean everything. And but I wouldn't feed them unless they went to church. So
How was that? How was that with the parents? Like, were they all pretty receptive to that? Because I love the idea, and at a private Christian school, that it wouldn't be that hard. I mean, the only pushback I would get is it interfere with them going to church, most likely. But at a public school, and I know I understand things have changed, and but what did you get pushback at all from that?
never, never.
Wow.
I just got parents that thanked us, and I mean, I did it at South Oak Cliff. I did it at Desoto. Um, I just wanted the kids to see that there's more to life, and that when you pray together, it's one of the things about Coaches Outreach. It's hard to be mad at people you pray with. And I did this in Dallas. I started praying with my kids after every practice, before every game, you know. Uh, and part of that reason was me, because I did not want to leave the floor mad or in a bad sense. Once you cross those lines, it's over. You know, and the kids talk about how I used to be kind of rough on them and use pretty harsh language, and then next minute we'd be praying. So,
But you had the ability to kind of flip that switch like that. That's impressive to me.
well, it's not my best feature. Being a blue collar, being from in a city, I always attributed that to the way I would attack things, and but I never wanted to go home mad. It's kind of like when any of the kids get married, they ask me for advice, and I'm not the best person, but we're going on 40 years, so apparently
You done something right.
I know. I, she must think I have money or something, but
Joke's on her.
but never ever go to bed mad with your spouse. Never ever. And if you're a man, the two best words is yes, ma'am. And the next two best, I'm sorry.
That's right.
But that's the same way with dealing with the kids. They were all my kids. They were all my family, and I'm so blessed that for 38 years I've been in the same area of Dallas County, and I get to hang out now. They're in their 50s and they're retired too, but I get to hang out with a lot of my ex players. I'm blessed.
Coach T had that ability too. And it's something I always admired about him, especially now getting into coaching, is the ability to be hard on players, but then love on them almost at the same time. Like it just, and to know the right thing to say at the right time, to where, I mean, rarely did we leave a practice or leave a game where we didn't, that's how I felt, where I didn't know that Coach T loved and cared about me. And it just sounds like you kind of had that same ability.
Well, I mean, kids pick up pretty quick, and you can't fake it. And if you love the kids, and if you care about them, then they understand. They get it.
I had the pleasure of getting to have the hoops talk with Coach Mayo. early on. I would imagine over the years you two ran into each other quite a bit, on the floor and probably off too in similar circles. And I really love getting to hear about some of the standards and pillars of his program. So I'll ask you the same question. If you could describe what were the standards that you held that were important to you in your program, what were they?
Being organized, being disciplined, um, being honest. Just try to be the person that I would want my kids to be. Uh, I never really ventured out much. I just went to church, came home. Uh, I never really went to places to be seen or heard. I just enjoyed my friends and my family, and um, I was able I was able to play ball until I was 50. We
Oh, wow.
played, yeah, we played at a Mormon church in Duncanville for 3 days a week, and
With some Mormon guys.
well, it started out that way.
And the,
No
the reason I ask is because some of my best friends in high school were Mormon, and we would go play at their church. And I'll tell you, they are some of the most competitive people, like nicest people when you talk to them. And then we'd start playing, and I'd be like, "What happened? Who are these guys?" So sorry, keep going.
Well, we were in a league, and it was a Mormon league, and we'd excuse my French here, but we would all join hands and circle around the center of the court and pray. Then we beat the hell out of each other. So, but we played from like 5 to 6 in the morning. Uh, that's when some of the Mormon kids could be there, and then
Yeah.
after a while, we called it the heathens and the Mormons. We were the heathens, but we played Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we did that for like 22 years until I hit 50, and then things started, breaking up. But it
That's
was
when you felt it, because I've been feeling it the last few years. I'm 41, so I'm impressed that you made it 9 more years. Going back to those pillars that you had, those standards. Um, what did you do, or in what ways did you enforce it? Because I think a lot of coaches have great ideas, words on a wall, something on a t-shirt, a slogan, they have posters made, but then the follow through is really important. Like when those standards are challenged, what do you do? And so how did you kind of uphold those standards when they were challenged?
well, I mean, I would tell this is what's going to happen, and if it did happen, then this is what's going to happen to you. Uh, One of my kids, uh, and he's very, very special, but he came to me from New Orleans, and he had been in Katrina as a little kid, and he was in the Superdome,
Hmm.
which was when you hear stories, it was brutal. And he ended up going to SMU and played for the Knicks this year, and he's in the G League right now. But I think it was one of the first games we were playing over in North Crowley, and he got hit in the head and yelled something. He got a tech. I told him, if you get a tech, you're sitting. So I called timeout, brought him over, sat him. He sat the whole game. He said, "Coach, I ain't never going to do that again."
It's a great motivator. The bench is a great motivator.
It is. The trouble is, we end up winning the game, but I'm thinking, man, what the hell did I do? But you got to stick by your guns. You can't waver. And there was a story one year at our marriage retreat for coaches outreach. This coach was a girls coach, and this young lady, they'd won the semifinal game. This young lady had gotten in late. She'd gone out with her parents, and he said, "Hey, 9 o'clock," and she got in about 10. He didn't play. And best player did not play her the next day and lost the game. I mean, that's tough to do, but you got to stick by your guns.
That's that's kind of next level toughness right there, because you're right. Like the standards sound great until, I mean, Coach Thomas has a great story about with Bracy Wright. I was a senior and Bracy was a sophomore. We went to Duncanville, and Bracy and another guy got into a little bit of trouble before the game. And, we're at Duncanville. I think they were second in the state. We were ranked third at the time. And, Bracy showed up a little bit late, and coach didn't play in the first quarter, the second quarter. And he says that I went up to him and I said at some point, Coach, I think Bracy's learned his lesson. I don't remember that. I don't remember, but we did put Bracy back in. We won. But those moments where, yeah, you have your principles, they're challenged. Are you gonna stick, like you said, stick to your guns? Because what's the consequence, Coach, if you don't, if you waver?
They know they can next time same thing's going to happen. I mean, there's got to be there's got to be a consequence for every action. And if our trouble today is we seem to think that because someone can sing or someone's a good athlete, we need to give them a free pass.
Hmm.
That's where you have problems. That's where you
Yeah.
have breakdown. You can't do those things.
At my school, the word grace is thrown around a lot. Like, let's just say that somebody gets in trouble for an infraction, is what it's called here, for something because we wear school uniforms, and they forget some part of it. And a lot of times, parents will ask for, well, can you give them a little bit of grace? And I try to explain to my players that that's not what grace means. Grace is a gift from God, that it's something that we don't deserve at all. And giving and letting somebody off the hook when they've done something wrong, I don't think that's grace. But what do you do when, like, is there a time with those rules, those standards that you have, that you do have, I'm not going to call it grace, but more understanding, and you show leniency? Were there times that you did that, or was it pretty much kind of like that coach that, sorry, I know you're with your parents, but 9 o'clock's the rule?
Well, I think you have to take everything into consideration. I'd have kids that sometimes would show up and they would have they couldn't get to practice, and they had a bad home life. It was a bad situation, and so from that standpoint, or I remember I had a kid at one time who I still have a good relationship with. He's grown, has kids of his own, and he would just in practice after the first hour and a half, he'd just fade.
Hmm.
And I said, "Boy, what's going on?" Well, Coach, I haven't eaten today.
Oh.
So my wife started making sandwiches, and I knew he didn't want to take them from me. So one of the female coaches who he talked to, I'd give them to her and she'd give them to him so he would eat during the day. But I mean, that's practice doesn't mean anything when, he said, Coach, there's nothing in our refrigerator. Man, screw practice. Let me take care of you. Let me help you. That's what we're here for.
Man, that's a great reminder. I think the part of that too is that uh, knowing what's actually going on in our players' lives. Like, it's not just making this thing all about basketball. And I really appreciate that reminder there.
Well, there's instances where, like, my first couple years at Desoto, I had a kid and he wasn't a great player, but he was a great kid. And his dad passes away. And I go to the funeral. It's early in the morning. It's like 10 o'clock. And as I'm sitting there, I'm reading, I realize I knew his mother. She had passed away too. And he had a stepmother, and she was really solid. But I remember when his mother passed away, he was like maybe 4 or 5. And then his dad passes away. He was at practice that afternoon. I said, David, what are you doing? I got to, I got to be here. I said, okay, I understand. You know, but so that kind of tells you, that was one place, that was one sanctuary they could go to that was good, was safe, was organized. You know, I used to clean their bathrooms because I knew that, up in the school, the bathrooms, they didn't want to use them. They'd all run down and want to use my bathroom because they were clean. They were clean, and I'd cleaned them and everything. And I always wanted my practice place to be a sanctuary. I didn't want anyone coming in. I didn't want, if a principal came in and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you later. I'll talk to you when I get done with practice, unless it's emergency." And they all knew. Everyone stayed out, and that was my teaching time. And I just wanted the kids to feel good about coming down there and being part of something special.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. I want to change gears a little bit, but confidence is something that you see it comes up a lot with shooting, but I think confidence for players is really important. And some guys just naturally have a certain level of it, and maybe it's because of all the practice that they've put in, or they're a little bit more strong-willed than other players, and then some struggle with it. Over the years, what were some things that you did to help build or protect the confidence of your players?
Well, it was never one person. And if I had a kid that could really shoot it, like Bracy, I got to coach Bracy in the global games. And I was telling Tommy, I said, "Man, for some reason, I don't know why, Bracy and I really connected." He reminded me of one of the kids I had, Holly Bonner, who passed away, that played for me at South Oak Cliff. And,
Hmm.
but in practice, if Bracy would miss a shot, we'd look at each other. Bracy missed a shot? It was like, wow. But, shooters, if someone can shoot the ball, you just tell them, "Man, keep shooting. Keep shooting." I mean, you'll break out the slump. Hopefully, it's in the fourth quarter. Just if you get a good shot, keep shooting. I don't want you going up there being tentative. Uh, and the other thing is, I always tell them, "Look, man, you got four other guys out here, four other brothers that are busting their butt on defense. Won't you join in and let's get some steals, turnovers. Layups are real easy. It's an easy way to cure bad shooting is layups."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, get your confidence going another way. That's great. I felt too that majority of guys that are missing shots, and this might sound silly, but they're not doing it on purpose. I think sometimes as coaches, we act as if they're missing layups or free throws or open shots on purpose. I think they want to be successful. So the best thing that we can do is help them to get past those moments really quick, right?
My college coach had a sign over his door, PMA, positive mental attitude. And he was always upbeat, always positive. Um, Sometimes it seemed like Mr. Rogers, but it does us good to have someone like that every now and then. Someone that will still tell us the truth, jump us when we do wrong, but also someone that will encourage you, because life's tough by yourself. It really is. Jesus would not want us to be negative, you know. So
Yep. How much of that coach's influence, or how much of that coach's personality and the way he did things influenced the way that you were as a coach?
I was real fortunate. I was able to see a lot of different coaches growing up. I got to see Larry Brown play, the Larry Brown, when he played for the Goodyear Wingfoots.
Wow.
Yeah, I told him that when he was at SMU. I said, "Coach, I got to see you play." He said, "Man, you're really old." But I mean, I was fortunate to see a lot of different coaches, and I got to see coaches I would want to be and coaches I did not want to be. And you just got to be real. You got to be yourself. That's what I tell coaches all the time. How should I coach? How should I do that? Just be yourself.
Hmm.
Because because you can't fake it. You know, you're not Bobby Knight. I'm not Bobby Knight. I'm not Rick Pitino. I'm not, anyone. I'm
Yeah.
just Chris, you know. So I'm going to try to be Chris Dyer.
It's kind of a little bit to me. It's like offense. You can watch these different offenses in March Madness or in the NBA. You can see different things, and you can't do it all. And to try to do it all, or to try to completely change either what you're comfortable with or what works for your players because of what you saw as tough. I think it's the same with coaching. We maybe get little things. I'm a little bit of Coach T. I'm still a little bit of Coach Bliss. I mean, I know he went through a lot of things, but man, as far as X's and O's and being prepared and organized, he was great. And I'm a little bit of Coach Drew, because Coach Drew is a little like you mentioned the Mr. Rogers. Like, what you see on TV with him is it is real. He is smiles, but he's still intense. So I think to your point, be yourself and be confident who you are while you take little things from here and there and try to emulate those. But that seems to be a good plan.
Yeah, it works well because if you're not yourself, they pick up real quick, and if I've always been a man-to-man defense coach. Coach Drew and I used to go back and forth on this, and when he won the national championship, I told him there's two things you finally did well. You finally went to Nike. You got out of that damn Adidas,
and
you got out of that damn zone.
That's right. Well, when you got Davion Mitchell, I mean, you better have him guarding some people.
Oh my goodness!
That was a fun team to watch for sure. But yeah, it was cool to see kind of him, because he had that length for so long in that back row of the zone, and it would cause some problems. But then I think that maybe is the sign of how great of a coach he is here's what these guys seem to do really well. Well, let's put them in positions to be successful with that. Seemed to work out for him.
Yeah, you got to change with the personnel. Of course, at that level, you can decide what type of personnel it is.
True.
But with us, like the 03 championship, my starting center was 6'2", 6'3", and then we were really small. So we couldn't stay and pound it. We had to run, and we were fast. And state championship game, we scored, I think, 92 or 93 points, and we held the ball the last 3 minutes.
Wow, that's fast.
But then my 09 team had a 290 post who ends up playing, who's smart as heck. First team in the 50 is going to win, because we're just going to walk it down and grind it out, and you got to do whatever makes you good.
And I think I struggled with that a little bit, like kind of full transparency. I've only been a head coach for 10 years and an assistant for 6 before that. So I haven't been doing it that long, but this idea of system, and this is our system, this is what we're known for. Now, I think there's a lot of arrogance in that I early on was kind of feeding, into, and then, but getting more to the point where I think what makes coaches special is being able to get the most out of the team that they have, and being able to adjust and learn different styles in new ways. So I'm still trying to get better. I don't know if I'm where you were with those state championships yet.
Well, I had some great kids and actually great assistant coaches, and I mean, everything has to come together. But everyone's got to. I always said we were on the SS Desoto. We were on that boat. I said either you're on the boat or you're off the boat. There's no in between. And if you're off the boat, your ass better be swimming toward the beach where everyone else is. All those nickel and dime coaches that want to be on the beach that are sit up in the stands, and but we're all going to run the same direction. We're all going to be together.
You've obviously, a lot of coaches know that we're in Texas, and if anybody's listening that's outside of Texas, well, football here is real, and it's And people, I love watching the Cowboys. I mean, I moved from a place that where football was big to get away from it, and man, I moved to Texas, so that was the wrong choice. But my a lot of us deal with multiple sport athletes, and there's been times where I feel like I've been better with a kid in the situation what he wants to do than other situations. And so over the years, did you have a lot of multiple sports, two-way guys, and how did you handle that in a way to where it was positive for him, and how did you feel about it?
Oh yeah, usually I always had football players on my team because when I started out as a JV coach at Kimball, you know, all the JV football kids would follow me to JV basketball.
They just
I'd have,
move right over.
yeah, I'd have 5 kids in the gym by myself, and we're going to get some work done. And that was after the varsity practice too.
Yeah.
So, and then as soon as basketball was over, they went to spring football with me. So, uh, you know, I've I've always had. I mean, MVP in 2016 was our quarterback,
Hmm.
and then in 2009 it was a inside or outside linebacker. But he'd been playing basketball. Both these kids been playing basketball the whole time and had been to my camps and came up through the system a little bit. So, and I realize that we're in Texas and football comes first, and the reason that we have everything we have, like um, athletic period, which no other state has
Yeah.
an athletic, um, and our salary. Let's be honest, basketball salaries have risen because of football, and you know, you gotta understand that football comes in the fall, and then when it's over, then we get the basketball. I just wanted them in the gym with me during the summer. If they go lift weights and then afterwards come by, and because I'm going to be at school every day and we're going to have open gym, and so I just wanted them to come in the gym and play.
That's a really good perspective to have and I don't think I think that way enough of thankful for what football does for Texas athletics. I mean, I don't think about it that often, and you're right on the money. I mean, you're a lot of places where there is no athletic period, and the facilities and just how important sports are. It starts with that sport. I've been doing my best, coach, to get away from the idea of my guys. I think that early on, you almost get coaches get territorial about the kids. Like, I want my guys in the gym year round. Well, I guess it may work at some places, but at a smaller school or a school like yours where they're going to play both, we've got to make it to where the kids feel good about doing that. They don't feel like they're doing something wrong. And so I just want to let you know I'm doing my best to get better. As a guy that didn't play multiple sports, I think maybe that's where it comes from myself is, coach, the only way I was able to play in college is because I focused on one thing. But that's not everybody's path. And so I'm getting there.
Well, I think kids that play multiple sports have less injury because of soft tissue. If let's say you're volleyball, and then you're volleyball year round and playing club and everything else, you're doing the same movement every time, and the same movement with soft tissue. The fast twitch fibers are not being used.
Yeah.
You know, I always said nothing gets you in shape for basketball but basketball. I mean, I can put you on the line and run your butt and have you run bleachers, but you don't feel it because you're running the same direction, running
Yeah.
the same way. So I always thought it's best for kids that play multiple sports. It really is.
All right. This is a fun question. And after the career that you have, what's one rule change that you'd like to see and why?
Well, there's two in high school. Number one, uh, we need a shot clock. I did the Jordan games 3 times, and one night we all went out to uh, Car Carbines. It was an Italian place, And it was coaches from New Jersey, New York. It was all high school. It was Nike people, and we sat there for over 2.5 hours, argued about the shot clock. And I told them, hey, I can do more defensively with a shot clock than I can, because I can make you take forever to get near the basket.
That's right.
That, the your time's up. But we played Tommy Brack over at North Crowley. Always had the Cowtown shootout. We used a shot clock, and we did it like 3 or 4 years. I loved it. I thought it was great. And the other one is, I think in high school you gotta have the charge bubble. They need
Mm.
the bubble. But my biggest pet peeve is in college. Why in the heck do the men play halves? Everybody plays quarters. I I mean the girls, Olympics, everything. Just give them 10-minute quarters.
I
I
I heard. Do you have any clue or any reason why they do that? Is it
really
just because of history and tradition?
I I guess I don't. Maybe you have more insight than I do.
I don't know if this is right. I heard from one coach that it's because if you do, it's the media timeouts. If you add in the quarters, somehow you lose a media timeout. And I guess if you do the math on across all of those, networks and everything, it's a big number apparently. But I actually don't know, Coach. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's true. But I agree. Yeah, that's strange. I'd like to see the college shot clock at 24 seconds myself. I just think it's too long. But yeah, I'm with you there.
I just, and the other thing is, I mean, we almost need to go with the FIBA rules, since that seems to be the biggest thing that we're playing for, the trapezoid lane, and, taking the ball off the rim. And,
Yeah,
you shouldn't get penalized for your height.
that's right. That's a great weapon. I was able to play in Iceland, and we had a 7 footer, and I remember the first time that in practice, you go up, the ball's rolling, and he just went up and took it off, and I thought, wait, hold on, like what did you just do? But no, that's legal. Love the idea of the charge circle. That's a safety thing. I mean, just keeping people farther away from the rim, having to take the charge. Coach, those make complete sense to me.
Well, that's because you're a basketball coach.
Okay, you've talked about your wife quite a bit and how a part of the program that she was, and I would imagine the way that you kind of call your players your kids, she probably felt the same way. And I don't mean to put words in her mouth or anything, but how did you balance coaching and family life over the years?
Um, your spouse has to understand your role, your job. Um, Coaches Outreach, the marriage conference, my wife and I, we'd always be small group leaders, and every year there'd be a couple about to get divorced, and they were football coaches, track coaches, and they'd come, and it was their last thing, and uh, by the end of the weekend they would make a commitment, because the wife would realize that this is just like being in the clergy,
Yeah.
being it's a calling, it's and you don't realize it. All my life, I just wanted to be a coach and a teacher. That's all ever wanted to be. And, the only thing that worried me was going to work in the factories. That scared the heck out of me. I didn't want to do that.
No
But
glue factories for you or
no,
yeah.
you just, it's a calling. You don't realize it, but the Lord puts you in that position to help kids and help people. And it's, in our lifetime, coaches will come in contact and change 25,000 lives. What other profession? I mean, what other profession, like you and Coach Thomas and Coach Mayo, do you still have relationships with your players? I mean, this is the greatest job in the world. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but it's a calling. And my wife, actually played college ball, and she loves basketball, and she loves the kids, and um, you know, she they have to be part of your life. You know, we were never able to have children of our own, but we have seven godchildren, and they're black, white, Hispanic. You know, there's and we're very blessed to be able to see them and help them any way we can. But you know, it's she's always been with me, and the kids say always whenever they call me, they ask how mom was doing, and uh, she's a bigger star than I ever thought I would be. You know.
Thank you for sharing that. And I didn't know, some of that about your life. And Mike Neighbors, the head coach at Arkansas for the women's team, I asked him that question. He said, "Don't try." He said, "Don't try to have balance." He said, "Bring it together."
You know.
You know, they're going to be they're going to be a part of you. Your family's going to be a part of the program. Your program's going to be a part of the family. I think sometimes maybe trying to compartmentalize what we do at school and with basketball, and then what we do with our family, it can put maybe an unnecessary pressure. But probably like you did really well over the years, because you don't get to stay married for 40 years. It's not always perfect, but you've done some things right. But I would imagine you always made sure that your wife and family, they knew how important they were, and you dedicated time to them. So, man.
Well, me being married 40 years, that's God's grace because I tried to screw it up a lot of times. And he always made sure that, you know, that she is a gift. She's a treasure, and I need to treat her like that. Sometimes we kind of forget those things.
Hmm.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
Coach, I have one more question for you, and then we'll go to the speed round, which is just a bunch of little quick questions, fun stuff. But the last question, this is one of my favorite questions to ask, and especially because of where you are in your life, and the career that you've had. If you could go back, what would you do differently if you could start over in coaching?
Be a better Christian. Be a better Christian coach. Um, you know, in all the things that I've been able to accomplish, my greatest thing that I think about every day is the kid I told you about, New Orleans, Ferran. Um, he was an idiot savant. I told him that. He said, "Coach, I don't know what that means, but you think I'm smart and stupid at the same time." And I said, "Yeah, I mean, he could figure things out. I mean, just and it wasn't in the classroom. It was he just had such great street smarts." And he came to me one day and he said, "Coach," he said, I've never been baptized." I said, "Okay." Came about 2 weeks later. We were starting to practice. It was in like December. He said, "Coach, I don't want to go to hell. I want to get baptized. My mom's been baptized and I don't know what to do." I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you really want to get baptized?" "Yes, sir." I said, "Okay. I'm going to call my minister. He's over in Cedar Hill. You've been to church there. He's been to our games. You know him. We'll go over and talk to him." So I called Pastor Mike. I said, "Mike, I got a kid," and our minister um, also teaches at DBU. He teaches
Oh,
Old
wow.
Testament. So he was going to baptize a group of kids from DBU that Sunday. And this is Wednesday, and Christmas is on a Monday now. Okay. So I call up my wife. She worked over at Cedar Hill in the city. I say, "I'm taking Ron over to church. So you want to meet me?" So we met with Pastor Mike over there, and um, um, he said, "Yeah, I can baptize you and everything." And so Ron's uncle brought his mother to the church. She was mad because she wanted to go to Potter's house. She didn't know why she was there. And then all of a sudden, he up in the well, I call it the Duncan tank, but it's the pool,
Yeah.
baptismal.
Yeah.
Which I call it the Duncan tank. But anyways, I'm up there with Ferran, and Pastor Mike is baptizing. I hear her; she is just bawling her eyes out. That was her Christmas gift.
Mm.
So that's what it's all about. I think about it every day. I call him. He's in Alabama on the G League, and I said, "Have you found the church?" Well, Coach, I'm kind of looking, and I know how it is to be young and everything, but he said, "I think this one team is going to sign me with a 2-year contract." So I said, "Well, I'll pray for you." But that's what makes coaching, especially at the high school level. That's what it's all about.
Good reminder for the times where we get so focused on winning and outcomes and style of play and X's and O's, where what you just talked about, that's the stuff that is important and that we won't forget. Let me ask you this: Coach Thomas does such a great job. Like I can't tell you how many times where he has sent me timely text messages, just where it's like he knew that I needed some encouragement, or I needed something, or just a hello. How intentional are you, or what do you do to stay in contact with players like you do?
Well, I'm lucky at my grapevine. They let me know who's doing what. One of our kids that played at TCU, his mother just died, and he was there when she passed. And I called him the other day, and he said he's having a hard time, and it's really tough. And I reminded him that this is how your mother wants you to be, and and you have 2 college degrees, so you can do a lot of great things with your life. If you want to go play ball, you still can go do that, but you need to honor your mom every day, every
Yeah.
day with actions and words, and she needs to be in your heart each and every day. And luckily one of the parents called me and let me know, so I get heads up on things, and I'm retired. I can call anybody I need to,
You've got time. You've got time.
and I haven't lost a game in 3 years. I love it.
All right, Coach, the speed round. Quick questions. First thing that pops in your head, blurt it out. You ready?
Go ahead.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Vanilla.
Greatest shooter of all time?
For me, I had 2: Cordell Love at Sock, and Vincent Rowlett that was at Kimball on our state team.
Okay. What about just in basketball in general, in your opinion? All time. Great.
Ray Allen.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I thought you might go Pistol Pete just because we had the talk, but pure shooting. Yeah. Ray Allen. Best basketball movie of all time?
Hoosiers. Duh.
That's like 99%. That's that. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Well, I already got that for high school. Shot clock or no shot clock? We already discussed that. Shot clock. Favorite holiday?
Oh man. All.
Nice.
All.
This is a newer question. Okay, Coach, you're up 3. You're on defense. There's 7 seconds left. Do you foul or do you not foul?
You foul. Now there's been times I haven't. I got burned by it, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, we don't rebound very well. We don't block out very well, and that's what always worried me,
Yeah.
because we've won a lot of games when when we missed and got the rebound, put it back in. We won some games doing that. So it's kind of a crapshoot. You want to foul the coach's son. So
All right. What book would you give to somebody?
the Bible.
Nice. In basketball, who's the GOAT?
Oh, Michael Jordan. First of all, you got to understand that LeBron and Steph were also born at the same hospital I was, but I was born first. I was born,
That's right. So you've got that on them.
but I did the Jordan games, and Michael was just, man, he was just, but everything about him was big. He'd come and shake your hand. His hand was like, he was so good to the kids and nice to the coaches, and but man, he's the greatest ever. Don't even go anyplace else. It's Michael.
Did you watch The Last Dance, all those episodes on
Oh
next?
yes.
What'd you think of that?
Uh, that's him. I mean,
Yeah.
he still has his. He wears his North Carolina shorts underneath everything. He showed them to us.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he's talking to us before the Jordan Classic, and Spike Lee and this other guy walk in, and they call him, their nickname for him is Black. They call him Black. And Spike, he's razzing him. He told the kids, he said, "Man, if you're ever playing and some little shit shows up and he's got like clothes that don't really match, and he's on the sideline the whole time, don't listen to him. He can't play."
uh, let's see. Two more. Your favorite place to travel?
Wow. We just got back from a cruise last week.
Nice.
I love the Caribbean. I love the Caribbean, but I did a camp a few years ago on the Canary Islands, and that was really neat. I like that.
Never been there. That's awesome. Last one. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Now, one.
How many when you were coaching?
Oh, I'd fill up a thermos. I had one of those thermos. It was the green ones, and my assistant said I must have had that during the Civil War, my Civil War thermos. But I'd fill that sucker up, and one year I was so embarrassed, I actually painted it to kind of give it another color. But and I would drink it all day, and that's not the good thing. But I would drink it during practice. When I was at SOC one year, and it was probably like 110 degrees in there. It was after camp, and we'd go there, and I'd have coffee. I'd be sitting there drinking coffee in that gym, and I'd see college coaches come in, and I would time to see how long they would stay or what excuse they would use. Uh, it was hilarious. Coach, I'll be right back. I gotta go see someone. I'll be right back. No, you're not. You're not coming back. And they'd say, they'd look at me, Coach, how can you drink coffee in this gym? Being from up north, I don't know. I just
That's
like
what you
coffee.
do.
Yeah. But now that I drink one, it's a big old cup now. But
Yeah, it's one, but it's I always like to ask that question because Wes Watson at McKinney High School, when I was his varsity assistant, and he's just such a special guy, and he'd always drink his coffee black. And I came in from Starbucks one time with coffee, and he's like, "What's in that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a mocha. It's got some vanilla and it's got some stuff." And he's like, "Matt, if you want to be a head coach one day, you drink your coffee black." And I coach from that moment. And I mean, this is actually tea because it's later in the afternoon and I'm old, but I've drank it black ever since. So thank you, Coach Watson. And I'm with you. Hey, this was so enjoyable. I'm just humbled and honored to have time with you like this. And just want to thank you. I know a lot of people have thanked you in your life, but just want to thank you for everything that you've meant to other coaches, all the players that you've influenced, and now what you're doing with coaches outreach. I think that's awesome too. And man, just so thankful to have this time with you.
Well, my last thing, I tell it to kids, and even when I go talk to high schools now, last bit of wisdom:
Yes, sir.
whatever you do for yourself dies with you. Whatever you do for others lives for eternity. I think we all need to do that.
Yeah. And like you had said earlier, what a great profession that we're in, because every day we have opportunities. And I think, just to your point, that the challenge is to not waste a day, right? Not waste a moment, to not waste a conversation.
Matt, if there's ever anything, if you ever need me to come by and holler at the kids or come by and watch practice, or if there's anybody out there that needs help, just give me a call. Everyone has my number. It hasn't changed in 20 years.
Coach, I'm going to take you up on that, because that offer is incredible. And just thank you so much again for your time. This was awesome.
It was my pleasure. It was, thank you for allowing me to be with you. And I feel special because, I'm right up there with Tommy, so I feel good about that.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.